So what is the best definition for evolution? Brought to you by Curious Maryland. And let's run right through it. So first, a reminder that evolution and natural selection work on existing heritable traits. There's no they got to work on pre-existing traits. So, well, this isn't going to happen. All right. Now, and just a reminder, this is a theory backed by evidence collected over the scientific method and peer-reviewed and tested for quite a long time. And we're still doing work. We realize that evolution is involved in everyday life. So the best definition requires that you first recognize some background. So here's some basic terms. Now, for the sake of the video, I'm going to pause it. Not going to pause it, but I would recommend that you pause it. So I'm going to go through this rather quickly. I'm going to actually write on the PowerPoint when we define population. So let's start first with species. All right. This is bare bones definitions. Species means that they have to be able to produce offspring. They can breed but produce offspring. This is why a mule is not considered the same is not considered the same species of anything, because it's infertile. But it also shows that the donkey and the horse are not the same species. They're more closely related, but this post-zygotic barrier prevents their offspring from having children. There are pre-zygotic barriers, and I'm going to go into that in a different video. So this is a continuation of the definition. What I do with this is I want my students to recognize certain aspects of it. So definition, we see that one definition is that it's a group of organisms whose individuals have the potential to interbreed and produce fertile offspring. So we go through this and we underline these two things. That's the key thing. Now we want to look at population, and this says a local group of individuals that belong to the same species. Now remember, the definition of species is listed right here. This is, when you see species in a definition, you should think, hey, individuals that have the ability to produce fertile offspring. So I want to go to the next slide. I put gene pool here. Total aggregate of the genes population at any one time is called the gene pool, but I have a simpler definition. And I want to look at the next slide and pause it. Well, here's gene pool. Sorry. And it's probably easier just to view it like that. All the genes in a population. Which means we have to know what a population is. So if we go back, we look at our list, we've defined species and gene pool, but we need to see how does population, because this is going to work towards our best definition of evolution. So let's look at this. This is a lot of words. We're going to focus on this second paragraph. First, it says, while natural selection involves interactions between individual organisms and their environment, well, that is huge, and their environment, it's not the individuals but the populations. What we did in class is we crossed out what we could. So watch. Look, isn't interbreeding individuals the same as saying species? If you understand that species means organisms have the ability to produce fertile offspring. So what we did is we just crossed this out. And now our definition says populations are defined as a group of species that share a common geographic habitat. And we just added one thing here. I said geographic area, so I'm going to write in a student who is analyzing these questions or being asked on tests should recognize geographic area is equal to saying their habitat, or saying the organism's specific environment, or as they adapt to changes in their environment. Those are all phrases that you should recognize. So I want to jump to the end here. Before we define the other terms, let's go back to an old slide here. We're talking about frequency of alleles. Remember, allele is a segment of DNA. An organism has two alleles that makes their genotype. They send one or the other to their offspring. All their offspring have both chromosomes, so they get one from the other, and they express one trait. And then, so we're focusing on looking at phenotypes, and that's what we're looking here. So let's do that. Take a second, pause the video, and jot down these. Now look at the Hardy-Weinberg equation, or Hardy-Weinberg Hardy-Weinberg principle is saying the conditions necessary to maintain genetic equilibrium. So what I want you to think about is, we're either maintaining equilibrium or we're disrupting it. That's where we get our definition of evolution. So this particular slide and the class discussion, we do this for about 5-10 minutes. So these are the conditions necessary to maintain. That means this is a non-evolving population, and if this occurs, we're gonna maintain equilibrium, and the population is not going to evolve. So now, look at the next slide. Evolution is disruption of genetic equilibrium. So if I said make a list of 5 mechanisms of evolution, think about the opposite of this list, and you would have this. So pause the video for a second if you're going to write this out, and I'll show you what we have. And I already have the link to 5-Finger Evolution, that link on my playlist. I strongly recommend you watch that. So these are mechanisms of evolution. So let's go back and think about writing a definition of evolution. The best definition of evolution is really writing the opposite of genetic equilibrium. So take a second, pause the video, and I'm going to go and show you what I think the best definition of evolution is. Are you ready? It's a change in the allele frequency of a population over time as they adapt to changes in their environment. Brought to you by Curious Moranland. Thanks for watching.